This is in the spirit of Limmud. Limmud is a continuously self-critical organisation. There's no harm in the absolutely correct self-congratulation of a team, because to have created Limmud here in Perth, and I remember that early conversations that we had, and in this context I'd also like to recognise Andrew Blitz, who's been so important in getting me to Perth in the very first occasion, and always backing with enthusiasm the things that I'm enthusiastic about. I really appreciate that too. So Limmud wants to learn all the time. That's what the word Limmud means learning. And there's no point in calling an organisation learning if you don't learn. Slightly facetiously, I'm going to pick out 2 or 3 mistakes that the Limmud team has made in order to try and underline what Limmud is really about. Because you think, many of you sitting here, that you've just come to another one of those conferences. You had Israel Matters last year. You've had other events in the past. I remember 3 years ago or longer ago, I came to another community conference. There were talks and so forth. And you may think, well, this is just another branding. You just stick another name on it. It's called Limmud this time instead of Israel Matters or whatever. But Limmud actually is a culture. It's not an event. Limmud is a process. It's not an event. The event is just the product that emerges from the process. Now here in Perth, because this is the first one, that process has been a little muted. It's been in the hands of a comparatively small group of people who have been inspired by the idea and want to try and get this going. But you heard from Simon already, which is that if you want to see a Limmud move on in Perth, then for goodness sake, get involved in making it happen. There's no point in sitting there and saying, well, I hope that happens again. Someone has to happen it. And if you think it happens because some officer or employee or big shot or grandee or rich person or something is going to make it happen, then it will not be Limmud. Because, as Limmud has always said, and I gather that America has taken on the phrase too, it's by the people, for the people, right? If Limmud is not done by us, it's not Limmud. So it's in that context that I want to pick up, I say, I'm going to pick up a few mistakes made by the team. So when I resisted, when they said, will you start with some kind of welcome introductory comments, I was reluctant because I said, come on, let them just get on with the learning, get in and learn. And I'm really, really pleased and impressed to see that about 150 of the people who've registered to come have taken that Limmud message and have thought to themselves, I'm not turning up to this opening thing. I'll wait until the learning starts and then I'll come and I'll learn some stuff. You can see those are people who have Limmud in their blood already, coursing through their veins. Very sensible. Why would you come to some official opening thingy? That's not what Limmud is about. And secondly, when I arrived at the entrance and we were registering, one gentleman, we were waiting to get our badges and so on, one gentleman said, oh, no, please, Clive Lawton, go out. And I said, there are no hierarchies here. Right? We do not do, well, you're important, you're not important, you're a presenter, you're just a learner. Right? The highest status in Limmud is Limmud volunteer. Right? The next highest status in Limmud is learner. In that category, almost the lowest status is presenter. I mean, after all, what do? We come along, we talk for an hour about stuff we already knew. I mean, that's not right? The difficult thing is to listen and learn. The difficult thing is to devote your time for months to make this thing happen, to create something which is really Limmud. So that idea, stand back, it's this one, let them come forward, that's not Limmud. Secondly, I notice the rooms which are named, yes? Those are names that you've created, are they? They're not names of the rooms in the school, right? I noticed the names in the program, if you've looked, the rooms have got fascinating Judaic names like BS3 and things like that, right? But in order to give them a little more flavour on this occasion, because after all, what does this place know about Jewish learning? In order to give them a bit more flavour, they've given them Jewish names, and it's great that they've chosen names from sort of across the diversity of Jewish people They haven't just said, right, it's got to be scholars or it's got to be poets or whatever. You've got Katznelson, you've got Kalbach, you've got Bialik, you've got Elie Wiesel, Mendelssohn, Dvorak. I noticed Golda Meir is also here. You've got all those. Different kinds of Jews from different places. But you'll have noticed, if you've looked already, that I jumped one. He's an old mate, and he's a compatriot of mine. It says here, Rabbi Sachs. Limmud does not do titles. Now, perhaps it's okay for a room. I mean, maybe we'll allow it for a room. But it would have been so much more Limmudi for it to be called Jonathan Sachs. Because Limmud, on your badge, it says, and here it says, Clive Lawton, and that's quite as it should be, and it would have been appalling if it had said Clive Lawton OBE, or if you're Dr. so-and-so, or Professor whatnot, or indeed, as we have in London, Lord so-and-so. We don't do it. It's just Joe Schmo. That's the name. That's who you are. We are not going to divide people up in hierarchies. We don't give people titles. We're all Jews. That's all. And indeed, some of us may not be Jews. I don't know. Limmud's undertaking is to enable people to take one step further on your Jewish journey. Right? I have no idea what your Jewish journey is, and quite possibly you have no idea what your Jewish journey is. Right? You won't know until you've encountered that next step and go, yeah, this is it. So what Limmud has to do is Limmud has to present to you this great mix of folk from all kinds of attitudes and all sorts of expectations and past experiences and approaches and so on. Limmud has to put on the greatest variety that it possibly can of Jewish learning opportunities. Not just variety in terms of content, you know, Israel and history and religion and text and mysticism and all that kind of stuff, whatever, but also variety in terms of type. A panel, a discussion, a lecture, a workshop, an activity, a film, you know, whatever. The variety, because we all learn in different ways. And possibly, even if we're the kind of person who would love to listen to a series of straight frontal lectures all the way through the day, you just need a bit of a break sometimes. You might quite like to have a go at making colour or whatever it might be. So Limmud has to offer variety. Diversity is a fundamental principle of Limmud, both in terms of the people who come and the kind of program that we offer and the way in which that program is offered. And I hope that after this event, the team and others of you who come to join the team will look around at who came and say to themselves, all right, who was missing? Well, we didn't get people from that part of town, or we didn't get people of that type, or we didn't get people from that age group, or we didn't get people from that synagogue or that community. We didn't get people from that aspect of the political spectrum. How do we get them next time? How do we ensure that our program draws those people too? How do we market to them? How do we get them in? So Limmud is really committed to diversity. It's also committed to participation. Please, please don't be a consumer today. That's for the rest of the week, unfortunately, and the rest of the year. Right? Our habit is, I came, I paid my money, now for goodness sake, do it for me. That is not the Limmud way. Right? The least of what you guys have done, and you know this is, frankly, obscenely cheap today. Right? The least of what you've done is pay your few dollars to be here. These folk have been at it for months, making this happen. Right? The volunteers have given far, far more than you have to make this go on. For you to expect them to do still more to make this day work for you is appalling, would be appalling. So if there are stairs to stack, or chairs to stack, or there are paper plates to clear up, or rubbish to collect, or things to organise into a circle, or whatever, then do it. Don't stand about expecting somebody else to do it. This is supposed to be yours. Not yours as of right, but yours as of construction. So do that too. Participation is very important. There's another error that this team has committed. It's entirely understandable. Simon here in his opening comments gave you a Dvatora. In Limmud, no one should be forced to learn anything they don't want to learn. I've often said, and you know, I mean, that Simon, he's going to, how else can he express himself? It's his mind, he's got to. Right? The man is who he is. And that's entirely proper. And he's rightly, and so are the folks sitting here, rightly proud of this gathering, which is strangely slowly growing. People couldn't sleep, they were so excited they had to get out of bed. And so he gives a Dvatora. But in general principle, we don't make anybody have to learn something because we've decided that it's the most important thing you've got to learn. I often say that if God said, I would like to present at Limmud, go, that's fine, we'll put you in session 3 against the thing on whatever, right? Because there are some people who just don't want to hear God. And there are other people who've already heard him. And there are other people who, you know, whatever, who knows, that are more interested in the revolutionary impact of women in Torah study, you know, whatever. It's not for us to say, this you must hear. Because we don't know what each person's Jewish journey is and what the next step is. And so Limmud provides choice. Right? When I said about diversity, diversity goes to that as well. We're interested in the business of enabling connections to be made. Now, here in Perth, it may be or may feel true to you. We all know each other here. This is an intimate community. We all know who we all are. But I suspect, if you look around, there are quite a number of people you don't really know. Indeed, quite a number of people you don't know at all. I hope during the course of the day you will meet some of those people. You'll get a chance to sit over a cup of coffee, or coming out of a session, or discussing what you just heard, or sitting in a small group within a session. You will meet some more people from Western Australian Jewry, and maybe from elsewhere as well. Because Limmud is about enabling connections to be made. We now have around the world quite a number of Limmud tourists. People who, when they know they're going to go to a place, check out to see when the Limmud is going to be on there. You know, if you're going to go on holiday to Germany, why not check out when Limmud Deutschland is on, so you can go to it? Right? If you're going to go to one of those Poland trips that people like to make themselves miserable with, right? Why not check out when Limmud Polska is on and go and cheer yourself up a bit? People do this all the time. They check out the Limmud program and see when Limmud is going to be on, so that if they've got to be there, they can go to it and join in. And many Limmuds have come about because somebody happens to be somewhere, sees the Limmud there and says, oh, we should do this back in our place. Limmud is now in over 80 different communities around the world, in about 50 different countries. There are 8 Limmuds in Israel. There are 17 Limmuds in North America, from Mexico City up to, I don't know what the furthest north is, Winnipeg, I guess. There are Limmuds in just about every European country. There's Limmuds in 3 cities in South Africa. Of course, 4 Limmuds now with Perth here in Australia. Limmud in New Zealand. Limmud China alternates between Shanghai and Beijing. Limmud Mumbai. Limmud Turkey has to be seen to be believed. Limmud is all over the place. It's spreading like a rash across the planet. And why is it that it works? It works because it belongs to the folk. Again, I said, if you think this is about 3 or 4 people in an office or a small band of people pushing forward something onto the community, that is not what Limmud is about. We started Limmud way back in 1980. I was 6 years old at the time. And we started it because in those days, in 1980, British Jewry was, I would say, exceptionally boring. I mean, so dull as to lead you to want to slit your throat. And not only was it dull, it was smugly satisfied being dull. Right? Nothing even faintly described as a bit exciting went on in British jury in 1980. And the thought of living the rest of your life in this was just so depressing that something had to be done. And the dullness is a product of a lack of knowledge, because people don't know what's possible in the Jewish world. Right? And I say this to you here in Perth, not because Perth is anywhere near as dull as British jury was in England. You cannot imagine. But taken overall, my impression is that Perth as a Jewish community is not right on the leading cutting edge of Judaic revolutionary thought. I may be wrong about that. I may have missed that. I'm sure. Okay. So maybe that's happening here. I don't know. But generally speaking, smaller communities, remoter communities, are less likely to come into contact with the kind of vast variety of stuff that's going on in the Jewish world in some of the major centres. And we wanted in Britain to bring to Britain an insight into all that was happening and possible and concerning in the Jewish world at large. Right? All the different kinds of things. So that people knew, and so that if you say there's, I don't know, 7,000 Jews in Perth, and yet you know that only 1,000 or 2,000 of those can ever really much be found in the Jewish world, how do you touch the other 5,000 or 6,000? What is it about being Jewish that could connect with them? Right? That's why the diversity is needed. And Limmud exists in order to provide that kind of excitement and possibility. We've now come to the bizarre situation where when somebody suggests a Limmud in some place, Montevideo or Phoenix, Arizona, or wherever, the first response of the people in that place is, well, I mean, it might work in Britain, but it won't work in... The idea that Britain is somehow an exciting Jewish place, I mean, that just boggles my imagination. Right? That never was so. When we started Limmud, we tried to get people to fund us, and they go, it might work in America, but it would never work. Now we have Americans saying that in reverse. So I hope that during the course of today, you will encounter lots of new ideas. I hope you will find yourselves thinking, perhaps some of you, I could present at Limmud. I've got an enthusiasm, a commitment, an interest, a hobby, or something which may be interesting to other people. And that in future Limmuds here in Perth, you will present your enthusiasm too. And it could be quite a marginal thing. You might just be into stamp collecting, stamps of Jewish interest. And it could be that if you offer that session on stamps of Jewish interest, only 3 other people will come. It's not about numbers. But those 3 other people interested in stamps like you, from that is born the Western Australia Jewish Philatelic Society. And there are 4 very, very happy people who all thought they were isolated before. Right? So Limmud is not about numbers, it's about diversity, variety, participation, it's about empowerment, it's about enabling connections to be made, it's about discovering the true quality of arguments for the sake of heaven. We do not all agree, and God forbid that we should. How dull and boring would that be? What was wrong with British jury back in 1980 was we all thought we were kind of the same. There was nothing going on there that made us think, gosh, this is different. I never thought of that. That's straight. Wow, how can anybody think that? You should be in some sessions today that really stretch you a bit, that make you think, do people really think that? Is that really possible? I didn't know that could. Stretch yourself. Don't just go to the same old, same old. Don't just go to what you always knew and thought. Learn, grow, and then join in making next year's bigger, better, more, for more Jews in Perth, that will finally become a beacon. Remote though this city is, wouldn't it be wonderful if people found themselves saying, I must go to Perth for Limmud, because it's a really exciting place to find Jewish thought. That's the challenge. take it out.
Thank you very much, Clive. Seems like you enjoy doing that against your will. That's good. Also, FYI, we sold 300 tickets, not 150, so hashtag just saying. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly go through some logistics for the day, because like I said, we want to get into session 1 starting in 13 minutes. So, there is lots of options in each session. Obviously only go to 1 unless you have some cool way to be in 2, then do that, but otherwise only go to 1. There's 15-minute breaks in between each session except for the lunch break, which is 45 minutes, but like, you know, take 10 minutes to break and then maybe walk with your new friend to your place for the last 5 minutes because presenters will be starting on time. So there's 2 main buildings where all the sessions will be held. There's the Kadima building, which is over there. There's signs on this gate here that also direct you, and also people in Limmud t-shirts can help you out. The BS or Beit Shoshana building is down that end. So you walk along the path here and turn right.
What a relief that that's what BS stands for. I was worried.
Yeah, and what else? Toilets, there's some also near Beit Shoshana building and Kadima. Also people can help you with that. Now, in terms of the actual program, we did post it on Facebook. There have been some changes. Apologies if anyone didn't get that message. These are the changes. Johnny Baker and Human Rhythms in session 1 will unfortunately no longer be presenting. The free band has been moved from session 6 to session 1. So do note that. And if you have anyone on your WhatsApp messages, Facebook, just quickly tell them. The Great Debate has also unfortunately been cancelled, and Simon Lawrence has replaced that slot. Simon is in session 3 and is doing Navigating Your Life with Quick What Your Jewish Compass in Beit Shoshana 3, Katzenelson.
Boring history stuff.
Anyway, we'll move on.
Not British.
The other thing is BS6 on here is out of use, unfortunately, so all BS6 things will be in the hall here, okay? So it's close to the center where everything is. There's tea, coffee, and refreshments to have in between sessions, so please help yourselves. Everything is kosher. There will be lunch for sale, which is also kosher by Cafe 61. Anything else? Yeah. There will be an Auslan interpreter for Dean Cohen's session in session 3 on disability, social entrepreneurship, and the Jewish community. So if you feel like maybe you will need that, or if you know people who might, then do let them know. So
sign language
interpretation. I think that is it. Have fun, challenge yourselves, and session 1 is starting in 10 minutes. Woo!